In the mist-cloaked streets of Pentos, where shadows clung to the damp cobbles like old secrets, a boy wandered in search of his future. His name was Varys, a name uttered with disdain or amusement by those who encountered him. He was small, gaunt, no more than a child in the eyes of the world, yet his eyes held a cunning far beyond his years. Life had been harsh from the moment of his birth, an existence marked by hunger, bartered freedom, and the oppressive weight of being without kin. Varys found himself a commodity, peddled in the markets of the free cities like a piece of fine silk or a jug of Dornish wine. For a handful of coins, a man might purchase a future for the boy, future in the form of servitude and chains. It was in this life that Varys learned the first lessons of power, that it could be cruel, capricious, and hidden, even in the gentle curve of a merchant's smile. Brought to Westeros, sold to a minor lord with aspirations far exceeding his reach, Varys entered the decadent sprawl of King's Landing. The castle soared above him, stark and unyielding against the pale sky, while its gardens whispered of secrets and sins known only to those patient enough to listen. A mere eunuch, inconsequential in the eyes of kings and queens, Varys recognized his own invisibility. It was here, in the grand halls and shadowy corners of Westeros' capital, that he would spin his web. Among the servants and stewards, he moved quietly, his eyes keen, his ears sharper. Whispers flitted through the castle like frightened birds, easily caught with patience and a gentle hand. Varys observed, assimilating the rhythm of court life like the rising tide, feasts where nobles laughed too loudly, chambers where alliances were forged in dark whispers. He gnawed on the bones of these secrets until the marrow was known to him alone. It was in the kitchens that he befriended a fat cook with fingers quick and as thick as sausages. There in the heat and cacophony, alliances were made. In soot-darkened taverns, he listened with rapt attention to the woes of sailors, men who swore loyalty while eyeing their drink with mistrust. Through each connection, Varys wove a chain, enunciating the subtle inflections of power as he'd heard them in his native tongue. Yet, there was more to his ascent than the gathering of knowledge, for in his chest simmered an ambition that neither betrayal nor the cruelty of man could douse. He learned to sow dissent as effortlessly as seeds. The courtesan who spurned her lord was filed away like a knife tucked beneath a tunic, a tool, a weapon for a future not yet revealed. And thus the spider began to weave, as tirelessly as any loom, across the city where shadows hid more than mere dust and echoes. But the winds above King's Landing bore a chill more biting than the whispered threats of nobles, cutting through the fog that encircled the Red Keep. Within its entwined corridors, Varys walked, a ghost unnoticed in the bustle of courtly life. The clamor of power echoed off the stone walls as he blended seamlessly into the tapestry of intrigue. Discovery came swift to those who sought it with eyes unclouded by ambition. Among the men and women who clung to the steps of the Iron Throne, Varys was a candle in the darkness, absorbing the stories told by the flicker of its flame. He knew of the gout-engorged lord, whose grief twisted into rage when his heir vanished upon the midnight sea. Whispers of tyranny and rebellion emanated from the cowled figure who nightly slipped into the tower, where ravens inquired more than they were ever wont to reveal. It was in these days that the spider began to spin his most delicate web, threading strands through the confines of Castle Black to the opulent courts across the narrow sea. In some circles his origins whispered of mysticism, in others of inspiration bordering on reckless genius. For those in power knew not what moved before them in the dark nights where stars sought cover behind black dawns. But Varys understood. Swiftly, he learned that to hold the hand of a friend too tightly was to invite scrutiny and betrayal. Trust was earned in fragments, a smile over winter ale, a compliment in the flickering candlelight, tested ever as one would temper a sword upon hissing flames. Those few he deemed worthy of his allegiance offered knowledge, if not safety. A hedge knight with eyes as sharp as his blade, the widow whose tears disguised a passion for revenge. Amidst his own scheming came the catalysts, events not of his making, though no less part of his tangled path. A lord's sudden departure to an icy tomb forged by the likes of nature's fury or familial hatred. A bastard son, unclaimed, who sought power in the footsteps of Twitch Hill warriors. Each nuance and nervous laugh paved the way for a future unknowable yet inevitable. In the crypt of the castle, within shadows deeper than those birthed by the dance of dragons, Varys found unexpected mentors. Their lessons were brief, wrapped around edged words, dialogues spoken in murmur, as though the walls themselves harbored ears. Slowly, Varys's ascent began to take form. His innocence expired in algid silence, as effective yet clandestine as the poisons which graced the goblets of the unwary. In the years to follow, court fables embroidered a regality upon his brittle frame, whilst beneath lay an ambition no wider than a riverbed, yet as dangerous to trifle with. Yet he still possessed the heart of a youth, aiming to steady his hand, to weave further, forge deeper, across the weft and weave of Westeros. Whether into loyalty or revolution remained uncertain, for even his own motives were unknown, buried deeply beneath the guise of the spider. The corridors of power creaked with strain as the Iron Throne groaned beneath its numerous rulers. Varys, now no longer the overlooked servant of years past, moved with a seasoned knowledge that was both hard-won and guarded. A eunuch by fate, yet a master of subtlety by choice, he navigated the court as a cat does the night, unseen, unheard, yet always present. The seasons in King's Landing shifted with the arrival of new lords bearing old grudges, and the departure of familiar faces whose alliances proved more elusive than the trust of their peers. Varys observed them through half-lidded eyes, all the while cataloging details, the steely smiles, the hesitant steps taken towards destined ruin or fleeting triumph. In the taverns and brothels he spoke in whispers, cultivating friendships of convenience. Here the discontented spat their dreams into mugs filled with ale, and courtesans turned their favors into currency. Through these exchanges, Varys pieced together a portrait of power that transcended the might of armies and fleets. A catalyst came in the form of a stranger, one from across the sea, cloaked in skill and deception, whose presence unnerved even the most tempered players of King's Landing's games. Varys found himself drawn, as the moth to the flame, to this new entrant on Westeros' stage, a merchant of silks and shadows, resplendent with tales of foreign courts where daggers did more than shadow-dancing queens. This newcomer spoke a language not foreign to him, of dreams beyond the marshlands and tributaries, dreams of a world where ambition met reality in clandestine mergers. It was in this confluence of time and temperament that Varys' pledge toward revelation took root. The spider set his goals beyond detection, seeking not mere survival but transformation, even as his very nature dictated stealth over shock. He consulted books of haunted lore and scrolls that whispered of magic long faded, enchanting the mind, awakening in him a dormant sense of purpose. As alliances tangled and broke, new loyalties reforged their iron bonds in the cruelty of necessity. Those who sought his counsel found the spider's advice sound yet abstruse, delivered with a veneer of southern courtesy that masked an ulterior line of inquiry. Their trust, placed upon this guardian of information armors, was born not from impulsive invocation of power, but from Varys' singular ability to ferry them across times of emergence and eclipse. Yet the question lingered, as persistent as the shadows that filled the keep at sundown. To what end did Varys cast his nets? His motives as a master arranger defying the common mystery, heroism and villainy inseparable in the pursuit of stabilization or revolution. Whether for vengeance or vindication, or perhaps some far more elusive aim, remained to be wrestled from the dark labyrinths of his own making, but remained impatiently to be seen. It was upon a night cloakless but wind-etched that Varys took respite among the dissonant crowd within the corners of the City of Silk. King's Landing withdrew beneath the shroud of dark, the stars barely visible above the mist of unseen forces. It was here, on the precipice of a court forever threatening to unravel, that declarations were made and promises whispered like winds rustling through the leaves. Garbed in the guise of servitude, the spider propelled advances beyond his own sense of duplicity. Allies found their place nearby, a widow whose voice carried more weight than coin, a disgraced lord with fixture-like tenacity, a wisdom-garnering crone blind to the city's light yet keen to every concealed pathway. With every banquet, every tottering dance, threads emerged as martyrs, hewing ambitions and nurturing vendettas beneath the conquering heel of iron rule. Varys listened, committing to examination every murmur, each intonation interred within his expanding mind map. Rumors fluttered through corridors as unsettling as vulture feathers. Bannermen withhold fealty, compensation pursued by borrowed steel. These figures came and went with the seasons, disparate and estranged, yet principal in consequence. Small ripples across the vast sea of power. One such ripple expanded. Varys, gathering fragments strewn through taverns and alleyways, hewed strength from misinterpreted alliances. As duties dispensed respite, secret liaisons ruffled the veils between friend and foe, a direct challenge against college-agreed tradition upheld by histories and legends. As years traversed, the spider's grasp firmed, yet a gripping chill lingered. Transactions belied his hand, trivial to deeper-throated voices, the fickle comforts of loyalties fading like smoke. Here, threads began to appear worn, embroiled wholly in time's harsh tyranny, each more dangerous than the next. In this weave between desire and discovering, allies appeared as finite truths. Yet it was always in the darkness where Varys would gain true purchase, the rumblings beneath fertile fields, or hushed ultimatums before matched in steel. As change beckoned, the urge to remain unnoticed by thick guards, trained ears, persisted. Through this carefully crafted conduit upon which fate perched, plans matured like artesian barrels, campaigns evolving with each play unraveled. And within the labyrinthine walls of plots devised, the spider settled, ever now vigilant, should the guard towers ring with choral warnings or alliances forge into binding call. He knew well the risk of careless errors. The lessons from missteps were archived, a compendium of oaths taken and secreted away. All part of the weave, designed hastily for turmoil's command, gradually to command queen and king, knight and commoner alike, whether in defense of the throne itself or destruction unto oblivion. This even he dared not foretell.